Hi everyone, and thanks for checking out my channel. In that video I'm going to have a look at a few commodities markets. I'm looking at basically long entries and the potential swings that could come with it. So this is a long-term view, potentially going for now until 4, 5, 6 weeks away. So the entry potential might actually happen a bit later, and of course that might not happen just right now, but there might be some other trades that could be taken in the middle, but I'm be only focusing on the long-term pattern here. Be starting with euro US dollar here. So as we can see, we had that significant divergence that's actually showing on the daily charts, a bit more obviously here, as we can see. There on that spike here we had, and now currently I'm looking at this on the 4 hours charts, as I think this is a bit more relevant. So we're having that trend line on the RSI that's actually capping the price quite nicely in terms of momentum. And we have some inverted cup handle figure that's forming, currently making the handle just right on the resistance trend line at 118. So I'm expecting some pullback from here, but we might continue to consolidate inside here, staying in that range between roughly around 1.18 until we would actually come and revisit the 117 before potentially breaking lower. So that figure is actually relatively shallow. So the first target, should it actually work and break lower, of course, would be looking at the first breakout within a week or so, and we'll be looking at the first target at 115. But I believe that longer term we're going to enter a new swing that will actually take the price down to the bottom, to the support trend line at the bottom of that large triangle that we are actually sitting in quite a while, and of course that could take a little bit more time, of course. That's probably a too long timing, but it could actually get there within the coming weeks, potentially months. That will put pressure on the USD commodities, and that's basically part of the plan continuing forward. So looking now at Bitcoin, that is also correlated to the US dollar, of course. It's also moving in that really big cup and handle, so uptrend definitely in. I believe it will move a little bit faster than the other commodities, currently pressing against 12,000, and potentially could have a breakout, but I believe not the right one yet. Breakout a bit higher than 12,000, but potentially pulling back down. Looking at now 10,400 for entry points, and that could happen also potentially by the end of August, and for continuation of the move, shall we go with that full figure. So that here is the size of the cap, and we will be reporting this on the break. We're looking at 20,000 as a final target for that swing, but that could happen, of course, much later, potentially moving higher that way, and potentially early 2021 we could have that objectives, but that could actually last for longer. We will see depending on the momentum we can get. Looking also on the same topic at silver, we also have a similar figure here, inverted cup and handle, very similar to the US dollar. I don't think that's an accident, but that's clearly related. We have that massive run up. So typically that figure is a very neat reversal figure coming at the top of a major bull run. That one came, I think if we take even the lower point from that move at 17, so almost doubled in value. So retracement is not really too much of a concern for the uptrend, I believe. We're having that nice inverted cup and handle that's forming. We're also having inside this bear flag that's been sitting here, and we saw that today it did break down, so potentially the first target we could get is the 21.6 for that bear flag, but that's also matching roughly the size of the cup here. I would be looking at the final target slightly below 20. Are we getting there? Maybe not. It might actually stop at 21.6. I'll be looking at entry points here. It could accelerate faster, but also we could have something like this, a bounce back, and then further moving down for a breakdown a bit later of the 24 levels level. So yeah, I'll be looking at entry point at 21.6 as I'm indicating here, but potentially we could go down to 20. So I'll be clearly watching this. Of course, there's a short position that could be taken, but keeping in mind that this is an uptrend, so there's always the risk of the uptrend to resume. So a short position could be attempted from here with the stop loss at 28, but honestly I believe this is very risky, and I rather wait for a clear entry point going long on silver rather than trying to short it. Of course, for day trading and shorter term trading, it's perfectly fine, but positional and swing trades, I believe the short position is a little bit risky. We could definitely bounce back to above 27 from here. I would make that position very uncomfortable, so I'd rather wait on the sideline on this. Similar configuration on platinum. Also, we don't have that inverted cup and handle, but really big divergence on the daily. Usually these divergences are getting cleared up. They are really reliable. We can see the trend line as well got broken here on that large red candle, so I believe this is just a matter of time until we actually break lower. And I believe 900 should now be a nice entry point. I don't believe we are going to see much lower level from here. I'll be watching this. Of course, we could still see an attempt to move and make another touch on the trend line that would just delay, I believe, the time and potentially rise the entry level a little bit, but definitely not comfortable entering at 960 at the moment. That's a little bit too high. I would definitely be looking at lower entry as we be able to secure the stop loss a little bit higher and having a bit less margin with that. Another market I'm looking at aside from platinum, so the target 19, potentially a little bit higher depending how it goes, but also looking at weight where we've had we're still in that short-term downtrend. Nothing has changed really. We could see that we got that divergence here on the daily that's been running right here. That divergence got cleared up by that massive move we had from 470 to 540. Very sharp, very quick, typical of what we usually get on WIT. And now I believe that we're going to move lower. That figure doesn't actually look as a bottom figure yet. I believe we're going to revisit 450. That's the lower end of the longer term trend that is going up, as we can see on the 200 MA that is still pointing up, and I'll be looking at that level for long entry, very similar to what we had about a year ago, with that nice and neat divergence on the daily from that point. So I'll be looking at something a bit similar happening here, so will probably take a bit longer. We're probably looking at September, October for this to materialize, but that will be a nice trade. Potentially that channel could actually break and we could resume higher and go for much higher targets. 600 would be one that I was actually hoping earlier this year to achieve, but that got invalidated, so that will become very interesting from 450, quite a big trade. And finally, also looking at coffee for long entry, still expecting the current move, as we are moving inside that large triangle here on the daily. We got one touch, another one here, and the third one recently with rejection. This is also some sort of a cup, inverted cup and handle figure. Start to just get the right tool. Yeah, that's it. So as you can see here, we would have the cup that's been completed here, and now we are forming the handle at the moment, something like this, and the break will actually take the price as the first target from here, slightly below 100. So we'll be looking potentially that could stop here if we actually draw the support line here. It could work that way, so maybe it will not actually reach lower 95. So I'll be definitely interested in opening long in that area for potentially having of course that trend to try again to break that trend line and hopefully succeed that time. That could actually trigger so much bigger move to the upside should it be successful. Interestingly enough, I believe we had the exactly similar pattern on the previous fail on that trend line. So we had that inverted cup handle here. That one was relatively shallow, and when it got broken down, we pretty much achieved the target, but potentially slightly lower. Yeah, the target was at 99, it reached 93, so potentially we would have the same thing happening again, and I believe we had exactly the same thing here, but it was for much bigger correction. That time, of course, since the trend line is running much higher, the potential for that move down is certainly lower, but definitely be looking at 99 as a potential entry. I've put 95, should that extend down to the trend line, that is actually not too far, but I will depend. Should we get the buy signal in that area, and then it would be an interesting trade to enter. In terms of the timing, we're looking at end of August, so should go actually relatively quickly. Of course, can still get invalidated with a break higher, but I doubt it because that trend line is very solid, and that figure is a repeat of the two previous figures we got. They're usually really reliable on coffee, which is why I don't believe we're going to move much higher than the top here. That is roughly 118. Yeah, so that's about it. I'll keep an eye on this on a regular basis, trying to do that once a week. Unlikely that anything will happen within a week or two. Also for silver, it can actually move very quickly. I will of course make an update on this and on the other ones as well, should I actually take position. Yes, I'll keep an eye on natural gas. That could actually form some soon some reversal that we could actually trade, but still a bit too soon. WTI, I'm still expecting WTI to break down lower to 34, but I'm not trading this, as I explained. I think it's risky to be positional or swing trading these two commodities, as they are too volatile and exposed to black swan events or stuff that cannot actually be seen in the chart. So you can buy or sell them for very secure levels, but we are not at these levels at the moment, so too risky in my opinion. So yeah, let me know if you have any comments, anything you want to share. Be happy to discuss, and yeah, until then, wish you safe trading, and I speak to you soon. Cheers, bye.